welcome everybody. Welcome to this, let's call it a webinar, I suppose. It's around strengthening Cloud PC security in Windows 365. So we've got a couple of demos planned within this session. Also want to talk a little bit about security in Windows 365 Cloud PC. So today's discussion format, again, it's going to be recorded, and those people that are joining, you will get an email to the upload afterwards. If you have any questions, please do use the chat window. Myself, George, and Michael from Nerdio are all on hand to answer any questions. And as I mentioned, the video will be sent afterwards. So we're going to have a bit more interaction in this session. We're going to have a couple of polls. We would love you guys to take part in to answer, some questions. But also, please do feel free to put any comments or feedback in the chat as well. Just before we start, just want to do a quick. We begin today by acknowledging the traditional custodians of the Gadigal land, online and offline, on which we meet today, and pay our respects to our elders past and present. So I'll quickly introduce sort of our three musketeers, two musketeers, not including me, but we have George Zajakovski from cubesys. George, a quick introduction.
Yeah, sure. Hey guys, George Zajakovski, one of the senior cloud consultants here at cubesys. My background has been video technologies for the past, I say 10 or so years, probably more. So doing things around Horizon, Citrix, Azure Virtual Desktop, Windows 365, Nerdio, Intune, all that kind of jazz. So yeah, that's me in a quick nutshell.
Thank you. We've got Michael from Nerdio. Michael, do you want a quick introduction?
Yeah. Hi everyone, my name is Michael Halvatzis, sales engineer for Nerdio. I've been with Nerdio for about 3 years, but before that I've worked with various vendors, system integrators, particularly in the VDI modern workplace, modern workspace place. Yeah, so lots of experience in that area. And thanks for having me, George and Shabaz. Looking forward to it.
Thank you. And just for those who don't know, my name is Shabaz. I'm also a senior cloud consultant at cubesys. I've been working with AVD Windows 365 since their inception, really. I'm also Microsoft MVP in sort of the Windows device space. So let's get started. So welcome everybody to the webinar. And this is all about strengthening Cloud PC security with Windows 365, right? As organizations are going to embrace this sort of hybrid work and Cloud PCs, security does remain one of the most sort of pressing challenges. While Windows 365 is simplifying deployment and management, it's going to introduce a lot of unique risks, and IT teams need to address these. And hopefully by the end of this session, especially in the demos that we're going to show you, you'll understand a little bit more how to protect that corporate data and maintain the compliance. So why is this a concern? I think the first reason is because Cloud PCs are now operating in this distributed environment. Often these are accessed from sort of personal devices or unmanaged networks, right? And George, I want to talk to you quickly before you go into your demo. This does create some potential vulnerabilities, right?
Yeah, 100%. So a lot of people see, distributed environments or are deploying Windows 365 today and think, how do I manage these resources? Why can't I see some of these resources in N365 or the Azure portal? And it really depends on, some of the cloud provisioning policies that you apply to these Cloud PCs, right? So depending on if you have your environment integrated with Entra joint, like a hybrid Entra joint with your own network, you will then see, the virtual NIC of the Cloud PC injected inside your VNet, but you won't see the compute or the disk of the actual VM running because that runs in a separate environment over in M365. So unless you're doing something like a Microsoft hosted network, where you don't see anything inside your environment, it's fully managed via Intune endpoint portal. Users sometimes get confused around where are these resources? Why am I not seeing them? How do I have full control or visibility across them? So just keep that sort of in back of mind that if you are doing like a hybrid join, you do see just the NIC injected inside your VNet, and it follows the firewalls and routing and security posture that you have already in your environment. Whereas if you're doing a Microsoft hosted network, then you don't see that. You still have control, but you just don't see it sort of in the Azure portal. And I know a lot of people here work primarily in the Azure portal, and it's something that's been called out in the past. So just wanted to keep everyone informed of that.
So just mention some of these potential risks as well that we've put here as well. Can you just talk to some of these maybe, and then obviously just jump into your demo as well?
Yeah, absolutely. So pretty much identity and access risks, right? First and foremost, how are our users coming into the environment? A lot of this stuff here is basically going to be defined, or you would already have security controls around conditional access and MFA policies, right? So everything that you have in your environment today still applies to Windows 365 Cloud PCs. So when your users log in from overseas, if you're blocking countries and that kind of stuff, they are still going to be blocked when they go to log into Windows 365. So as long as your MFA conditional access policies are set up, you're all good and well. When it comes to endpoint security gaps, a lot of organizations these days use Microsoft Defender for endpoints, built-in AV, antivirus, that's all good and well. However, there might be some people that are using other things like CrowdStrike and other AV applications, right? So you want to make sure that you are indeed covering or deploying those agents to your Windows 365 Cloud PCs, because they are essentially, how can I say it, like physical laptops that have been given to users, right? So we assign a Cloud PC to a user. It's like it's a physical laptop. It's just living in the cloud. So we still need to manage and control that in some way. We go on to talk about data leakage via redirection. So again, if you were to give a physical laptop to someone and they go find a USB stick in a car park or whatever and plug it into a laptop, most organizations turn off auto run, right? So you probably want to do the same thing inside your Windows 365 environment to ensure that it is protected. So when I jump into the demo a little bit later, I'll show how or where or how to sort of separate your policies. They want to have overlaps similar to like group policy where things are trying to fight against each other. But you want to make sure that your physical laptops are containerized, your Windows 365 are containerized or in separate groups to basically apply different policies to them. When we look at BYD challenges, a lot of the time, we need to secure laptops that people bring that are not company laptops. When we go to use Windows 365 Cloud PC, you might be bringing your own laptop, but as soon as you've logged into that Cloud PC environment, we can apply additional security rules like screen capture protection and copy paste redirection and all of this stuff, right? We can control what data can go in and out of that environment. And then some known issues and misconfigurations, as I mentioned earlier, are things like customers that have never used Windows 365 before may have just created a whole bunch of Intune policies to go and apply to their physical endpoints, right? And then you introduce Windows 365 and you start doing something and you think, oh, hang on, I'm getting errors, or this is applying to Windows 365 devices and it shouldn't, because it refers to physical devices rather than virtualized environments and that kind of stuff. And that's where we get, some sort of known issues and misconfigs. So what I'll do is I'll quickly jump into a demo just to run you through real quick around where some of these settings may lie. So first and foremost, you're going to be managing your Windows 365 environment from intune.microsoft.com. Provided you have a license, those Windows 365 devices will appear under Devices, Windows 365, and you will see them all listed here under Cloud PCs. Right now, this is just a demo lab, so there are a couple of stuff that's been provisioned, some stuff that's not provisioned because there's no license assigned, that kind of thing. So you want to ensure that you have a license assigned, you've got correct provisioning policies set to go ahead and deploy your Windows 365 Cloud PCs. You can use custom images, integrate it inside your network if needed, go ahead and apply, local admin access, etc. Now, where I see a lot of people get confused when it comes to Windows 365 policies is, security baselines more so. They go ahead and start applying policies here. So configuration policies, compliance policies, etc. I think if it was a greenfield deployment and it is your first time looking at doing Windows 365 as a deployment in your environment, you start off with endpoint security baselines, and then there is a specific Windows 365 security baseline here that we should first and foremost use, right? So when we go to create a security baseline, we essentially want to target this to our Windows 365 Cloud PCs. These are recommendations, or a set of recommendations from Microsoft that has got configuration settings in there that are best practice to cover majority of things, right? When I say misconfigurations and overlap, some of these settings that you see here also are shown in compliance profiles and configuration profiles, right? But these particular settings here, I guess, are your call them safe settings in a way that by default, right, everything is sort of set as it needs to be for a Windows 365 cloud environment. So, for example, preventing the lock screen camera, right? In a Windows 365 Cloud PC, we don't actually see the lock screen. We use the Windows 365 app to go and log into the environment, but we don't need the camera to be running or enabled on the lock screen because we don't physically have one, right? So it makes sense that we're preventing access to it. So I'm not going to go through all of these, but essentially what they are a good known working configuration or best practice to harden your environment or ensure that your endpoints are secure from a Microsoft perspective, right? Now, all of these, and I've got a list of them here that I'll put in the chat for you as well, and they explain each and every feature that's included in a Windows 365 baseline. But a lot of them in here are just things that Microsoft would recommend to go ahead and apply, right? So a good starting point is just grab this, apply it, and away you go. Now, on top of that, if we go back a step, there are other areas under endpoint security that you might be interested in, right? So you've got antivirus, firewall, attack surface reduction rules, all that kind of stuff. When creating any policies in here, you want to make sure that your policies are being deployed to a specific entry group that is targeting those particular devices, because you don't want any overlap between the two. I mean, yes, there might be some overlap for like core SOE related stuff, but when it comes to security, I think you do definitely need a different structure between physical and virtual environments, because you don't want any unknown things to happen. You don't want applications to stop working. Some things that I've seen in the past is customers have hardened their environments way too much and blocked, like say, certain URLs, right? And Windows 365 needs access to talk to a subset of URLs that Microsoft owns and maintains, so that we can talk to the brokers and can do the whole connection back to the Cloud PC. So, like I said, I think a good starting point, have your environment separated, physical, virtual, etc. Make sure you're applying the correct policies, and also make sure you're starting off with some of those security baselines that I mentioned here. And these are ones that Microsoft manage and maintain, and they start from 21H2 and go upwards, right? So each time you see a sort of a new version start to appear in this list of baselines here. In saying that, some people will probably ask things like, CIS hardening and sort of where do we go and put some of those other CIS hardening policies or any other sort of government policy that we need to apply. You can input CIS hardening, baselines, benchmarks, whatever you want to call them. But at the end of the day, there are different areas where you can go and import them and where you should set them up versus where the Windows 365 security ones need to be. So just be mindful of that. There are also different ways that you can go ahead and deploy baselines, right? I mean, at the end of the day, a baseline is just a registry policy locally on the machine. So whether you push it via Intune, whether you push it via group policy, startup script, Nerdio, which Michael will cover shortly, there's a whole bunch of different ways that you can go and deploy it. The main thing is we want to make sure that those policies are applied to our cloud PCs to ensure at least some sort of baseline standard, and then we can harden further from there.
I think, George, you touched on a great demo, by the way. Thank you very much. And I think some of the stuff that George has touched on there, you might just, you might think that it's not important, but these security baselines do matter. And, they're just giving you a starting point, to be fair. This is not something that you deploy and that's it. This is giving you the starting, especially when you start with greenfield, as George mentioned. And, you've got that strong authentication. It's going to give you that OS level protection. You need to treat it like you would treat a laptop. Essentially, it's like a physical device, but in the cloud, right? It's going to allow you to enforce policy, and with your sort of existing security standards as well, integrate those. So especially those users that are connecting from personal devices.
One thing that I want to just mention as well, Shabaz, is a lot of people, we need to again differentiate the difference between physical laptops and cloud, because remember, your cloud PCs are on 24/7. It is a fixed paid subscription cost that you pay per month, for unlimited usage of that machine, essentially, and it's running 24/7. So just because you're not logged into it, you're not using, doesn't mean that it's not vulnerable to the environment. So just also think about that, have that one in your back pocket as well.
Excellent. Thank you very much, George. So again, we've had a look now. We've had a starter around Windows 365 security. Security baseline is a really good way to start. Now, a lot of the things George has gone about there, especially within Intune, that's one way of managing it, right? And obviously, Windows 365 integrates, and that's how you manage it through Intune. Whereas AVD is more through the Azure portal, etc. Now, what brings this all together is an automation with Nerdio. And I'm going to bring Michael in shortly. But essentially, with Nerdio Enemy, that's going to provide you with that sort of deep automation, that orchestration for AVD and with Windows 365 environments. And when it's integrated with Intune specifically, it's going to, because that's how it gets that integration with Windows 365. It's going to allow admin teams to deploy and enforce those security policies at scale. So those policies that George was showing us, I've been able to do that at a larger scale, covering compliance, configuration, and obviously patch management as well, without that sort of manual overhead. So got some key points here on what we can kind of do. And Michael, I want to bring you in for some of these as well. You mentioned, we first of all, let's mention those sort of pre-configured security baselines, or those sys baselines, and Nerdio gives those policy templates. So again, integrates with those policy templates.
We do, yeah. So we're a partner with the Centre for Internet Security, and basically, as they maintain their level 1 baseline policies, we make sure we maintain our templates are all available to quickly apply. We separate them into different feature types. You can combine them. And I'll show that in the demo in a bit as well.
And how about the integration with endpoint security tools? Because obviously that's the key, right? Because a lot of organizations are using Windows 365 and Nerdio. They will have those existing tool sets that they use for endpoint security. What can you tell us a little bit about that alignment?
Yeah, for those that haven't used Nerdio before, think of Nerdio as a management and orchestration tool for Intune. So it's not a replacement. We sit on top of it, and enhancements. So you've got all your security baselines. We've got some cool feature sets such as templates, but we can also do some versioning control, comparisons, conflict resolution. So that's how we kind of provide some additional enhancements to Intune, which obviously controls Windows 365 devices.
And the interesting little bit about the compliance posture visibility as well. It allows you to sort of consolidate all that inside of it, like a single view with your device compliance status as well.
Yeah, we've got some pretty cool dashboards, and it's probably easier if I just show you in the demo as it comes up. So I can show you that in a second.
So I'll touch on a couple more points. I can imagine people are eager to see the demo.
Yeah.
But again, hopefully you can show us some of this. But one of my favorite features about Enemy specifically is the automated patching and the updates to the image. I just love the way that rather than patching the device, you're patching the image. And then monthly you can just redeploy that, automate it. And, for an IT, I used to, me and George, I'm sure you as well, Michael, we used to be, patching devices, and, that regular monthly cycle can be so tedious and monotonous. And, this just automates it all. And that for me is one of my favorite sort of features.
One thing I do want to call out on that automated patching and updates, image management, etc., is, I don't know how many people have actually tried to go and do a custom image natively in the Azure portal. It is so painful. There are so many steps involved where you need to go in to a virtual machine, build it to some sort of spec, take a snapshot for something to revert back to, then go ahead and capture and sysprep that machine. Because as we all know, once you sysprep, you can't power that machine back on in Azure. It becomes completely useless. So if you ever want to bring it back, you need to bring back that snapshot. But Nerdio goes ahead and does all that automation for you. However, if that being said, I'm really interested to see, if people want to put in the chat or something like that, if you guys are actually using custom images for Windows 365, or if you're using Intune or other platforms to go and push applications and build your SOEs or your Cloud PCs like a task sequence style, like SCCM, or you're just using Intune to go ahead and deploy stuff. Really interested if anyone wants to mention anything in the chat. But
yes, please do. Michael, before I hand over to you for the demo, the other really powerful piece for me with Nerdio's integration with Windows 365 is the RBAC, because it doesn't just use Entra RBAC, it actually has its own sort of granular role-based access control. And again, I've had it with a number of customers when using Nerdio around access. And I think being able to granularly assign the different team, because, you know, if you're big organizations, enterprise organizations, you have like your help desk, your level 1, 2, 3, you have your EUC team, you have security team. They all need some sort of access. And rather than just giving them super admin or global admin or whatever, you can then, you know, give those granular admin permissions. Again, it's just another way of securing access for sort of overprivileged users, isn't it?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, yeah. And yeah, as you said, you're spot on. We can be quite granular with what we give read access to, what we give management access to for the different Intune features. It's all controllable by Nerdio.
I can imagine the people that are watching are telling me to shut up and hand over to you for let's have a look at what we're talking about. So over to you, Michael.
All right. I'll just cut over to my demo environment. Just let me know when you can see that, okay?
Yeah, we can see that.
Cool. So what I'll start with is our dashboard. So this first screen, it's basically you integrate Nerdio with Intune and you'll get our dashboard. It gives you that like high level overview, the footprint of your devices, right? So straight off the bat, you can see the number of your devices in the environment, things like the level of compliance. This is a default dashboard. You can edit this. So we can add various widgets. So, you know, if you want to see your compliance by state or by department, you know, you can add additional widgets and kind of get that quick overview. You know, this is US based, so it's you know, it's got the US states, but it gives you that level of information. If you're looking for something specific, so we're talking about Windows 365 today, so I can go to device model and just basically pick all my cloud PCs, and it gives me a quick view of my Windows 365 devices. And on the right hand side, I can see if they're in compliance, out of compliance. I can click onto a particular user or device and see exactly why that might be out of compliance. So there's some patches that haven't been deployed there, or some certain policy that haven't been applied. So a really quick way to drill into and see why you might not be compliant for that user or that device. We've got things like tracking the trends as well. So this will just showcase a period over 30 days, but you can change that to a year, you know, 90 days. And basically you can track your progress to 100% compliance over time, and good management tool set to see how it's tracking that way. Okay, so that's a little bit about the dashboard. There's some more.
That's so powerful, being able to actually see those insights in quite easy on the eye format as well. Because then it's just easy for you to report on these things, right? If there is like a security threat or something like that, being able to report to key stakeholders is a really important part of that. And this is ideal for something like that.
Yeah, and you can also tweak things. You can be quite granular with tweaking what's important to you to show in these reports, what's not so important. It's all configurable. Yeah. So what I'll go into next is under endpoints. So this is where we can see a list of all our devices. So you've got your Cloud PC devices, all the general Intune tasks are available there. So you've got all that available from the dashboard. You don't have to go back to the Intune environment. Under policy management, so I talked a little bit about the various templates. So if I go to configuration and try to create a new template directly from Nerdio, I can go pick the type of the policy type I want. Nerdio gets deployed with a number of CAN policies, which are the different templates. We've got those CIS policies that I talked about earlier. So they're all kind of separated into, you know, the various features, Defender, device lock, firewall. So you can pick and choose, combine these for your Windows 11, Windows 365 footprint, create that policy, and then it's there ready to go. What we can do above and beyond what Intune can do natively as well, we've got the ability to take backups based on a schedule or based on any time there's a change to an Intune policy. With Intune natively, that'll get applied straight away, right? Sometimes it's hard to go back and troubleshoot. So if I just look at this policy type, I know it's not related to Windows 365, but I'm just trying to demonstrate our backup ability. I can click on the backups. I can see all the various versions type, who's changed it. If I do find an issue, I can do a restoration, so I can quickly roll back a change if there's a security issue. The other thing that it allows me to do is a comparison, right? So I can do a side-by-side comparison. On the right-hand side, I pick the currently applied policy. On the left-hand side, I might not be sure which version broke it. I can pick any previous version and do a side-by-side JSON comparison on those two policies.
But can you imagine? Again, we've all been in that position, right, where we've done a change, we're having to troubleshoot. It's not gone right, patching or whatever. Some sort of policy has been default. We don't know what part of the policy has broken everything. This will speed up that whole troubleshooting process. Side by side, being able to look, this is when it worked, this is the last known good configuration, this is what we deployed, where, just go down it, see where the error is, you can roll back. And that's, I suppose, a part of security that we've not mentioned, right? Being able to back up your policies. That is really, really powerful as well, because, like you said, there might have been like a policy like a month ago that you might need to roll back to, and you have those backups, and that's very, very powerful.
Yeah, exactly, Shabaz. Yep. So we've introduced that just to make it a little bit easier to manage. The other thing that we've got also is conflict resolution capability. So, if there is a conflicting security policy, Nerdio will tell you that there's a conflict, but what we'll also do is provide this easy to follow flowchart about exactly what is conflicting. So from left to right, two different policies applying the same setting with different values to the same device scope. Obviously, if this was a security setting to your Windows 365 devices, there might be a certain security policy not applying or applied incorrectly. So just a quick way to visualize that and correct any errors. This is just a simple true or false kind of binary value, but think numerical values for certain policies. If it was 5-10 layers deep, it will just be a larger flow chart to help you visualize all the conflicting issues.
I know you probably can't answer this, Michael, but where was Nerdio when I was in a support role, like all those many years ago, when I was like spending hours and hours trying to troubleshoot these sort of exact same issues, right?
Where was this for group policy when you needed it?
Yeah. Well, it's because of issues and pains like that we've introduced this sort of stuff. We listen to customers and partners like yourselves to introduce all this stuff. And I don't know if you're aware, Shabaz, but we've also recently introduced the approval workflow. So any changes that you want to apply to a security policy, you can force it to go to a manager for approval before it gets accepted or rejected as well. So that's
like
now
like a peer review, right? So like if you put a policy in,
correct,
you need colleagues to review it. Okay, no, I know about that. That's something new, I think, recent.
Yeah.
One thing I just wanted to mention as well, with all of this being said, I mean, we've obviously got Intune managing security baselines and that kind of stuff. Now, you don't necessarily need to have Nerdio deployed to go and take benefit of Windows 365. However, if you do have it, you have all these benefits that Michael's just been showing us. But on top of that, you have the single pane of glass. So most teams that I've worked with in the past are the desktop support teams that will manage physical laptops as well as virtual laptops, as well as Azure Virtual Desktop, Citrix, etc. Right? So having this single pane of glass and not having to have to jump between different portals to go and manage the different tasks is a huge, massive win, and it just removes all that operational overhead that your IT technicians need to go and jump through and pim this and pim that, and you sort of go around and waste a lot of time trying to get the access that you need. So having this is really beneficial.
And George, you mentioned around the different networking capabilities, right? You can have hybrid network, you can have Entra-join. Obviously, Nerdio integrates with that, but if you're managing Windows 365, like as part when it comes to like patching and stuff like that through like SCCM or group policy, Nerdio is going to integrate with all of them. So even if you might want to migrate to Intune and your policy, but I'm talking about policies here. Obviously, Windows 365 is deployed and managed through Intune, right? But what I'm on about is those security policies, that patching. You might stick the SCCM in on there or whatever. Nerdio fully integrates with all that as well, right? So it can help you in that transition.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and thanks for pointing that out, Shabaz and George. That's a good point. Good point there. And And just to close out, Shabaz touched on it earlier, but our granular RBAC controls. So if I go down to RBAC roles, I go to definitions. Nerdio's got 5 default RBAC controls from read-only to full access. But when we're talking specifically about Intune, I can create a new custom RBAC control. And focusing on Intune, you can give read-only or full access, but if I scroll down, you can see they can be quite granular with the different features. So I can choose to say, create a definition where the user can read devices and maybe read the device location, but then allow them to do things like manage applications or manage, what's another good one, policies as well. Right?
There is, yeah.
And then you can assign that to serve desk level 1, 2, 3. When they log in, they'll only see the menu items that you've allowed them to see, and they'll only be able to do the functions that you've defined here as well. So you can be very granular with how you control all those RBAC roles as well.
Excellent. And again, it's just another way of securing access to who can manage what with them, Windows 65, and that is very important. You've got to remember these are people within the organization that have privileged access, so they're the ones more likely to be targeted with sort of any sort of security attack or whatever. So definitely worth using stuff like this to manage that and protect that. Thank you very much, Michael. Really, 2 great demos, both to George and Michael. The Nerdio one just brings it all together with sort of the integration, but also the automation. So I do want to thank everyone for joining us today. We thought it'd be nice to end the year with a nice, interesting couple of demos and talking about strengthening your cloud PC. You can see the slide now is a scan to book an appointment with myself or George. So, if you do want to discuss anything we've talked about now, or any other sort of specific needs that you have around Windows 365, Cloud PC and security, or anything, right? Anything ABD, VDI related, Nerdio related, whatever. Please do scan that and book an appointment with us. We're more than happy to talk to you. And yeah, thank you very much. So yeah, Michael, George, as ever, thank you very much. Really appreciate your time. Thank you everybody for joining us.